Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Friday, September 19th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It also contains an abbreviated version of the worksheet process. And it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also download from that same page on the website a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actually apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can go to Zoom 10:30 to or 11 to noon Central Time, 5 days a week, and open up a browser window or call in one of the many numbers they offer and enter the meeting ID number, 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And if you're just calling in on the phone, you can use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our work when we know how these things are landing for you. Alternately, you can send me an email. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@yagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get an email, comment, or question from you, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or your input. And again, we greatly appreciate when people do that because it makes it far easier for us to live into our intention to be of service. So it's a Friday. We had a support group last night, and it was an anomaly last night. The first 15 minutes was just me. And then we had somebody come on, and we had one person in the group with me for about an hour, over an hour. And then one other person joined for about an hour. And then right near the end of the group, somebody else joined for 5 or 10 minutes. And this internet show began with the intention of creating a support mechanism for anybody who might want to start their own support group, because Michael and Jeannie back then were traveling around 8 to 10 months of the year, spending generally no more than a week in one location, teaching the tools and then moving on. And people would get excited, and then it would fizzle out because there wasn't any support. Despite the fact that Michael and Jeannie would talk long and hard about the benefits of creating a community and starting your own support group and using the tools on a regular basis. And so when they got the chance to do this internet show, that's what they decided to do, specifically to help people keep using the tools and deepen and strengthen their practice with these tools after the initial teaching, after the initial exposure. And the Tuesday group has been running for over 21 years now. And the Thursday group has been running for 13. So the question becomes, how do you get a group? How do you hold a group? How do you keep a group going that long? And the answer is because you just make the commitment to do it. And there have been a number of times over the past 21 years where I would show up because we were meeting in person, and I would drive the 15 or 20 minutes to where the location of the church or group was held. And I'd open up the room and I'd get things ready and no one would show up. But I'd stay there for, at least 2 of the 2.5 hours, and I would do my own worksheets or do my own reading or do a meditation and just keep the space open in case somebody did show up. And it's been a long while, but that was the position I was in again last night. And I could easily have said, oh, it's been a long day. Nobody's here. I waited 15 or 20 minutes, and I just close up the computer and go home. And then the people who straggled in late would have no place to go. And that would be okay, because if they, life goes on. It's not like I am making or breaking people's lives. And yet it's the effort I put into my life and my commitments that either makes or breaks my life experience. So, and as we found out over the years, often when it's just me and one other person or me and 2 other people, sometimes those are the most intense processing groups for the entire year. So if you're so inclined, if these tools are helping you, if you're thinking in terms of starting your own group, please understand that the commitment to holding the space, in other words, going to the place, whether it's like these days, it's me opening up the Zoom room, but for a lot of years, it was me opening up a physical room in either an architect's building or a yoga studio or the basement of a church, or a little upstairs room, almost like a closet that we were renting from another church. So just go there, make the commitment. It's kind of like what the Way of Mastery says in the second book in the 3 books, which is the Way of Transformation. They recommend that you create a journal that's for nothing but that purpose, and a pen that you only use when you're writing in that journal, and you put it in a place that's relatively sacred to you, sanctified, whatever. It's not in the middle of the kitchen table with all other kinds of stuff that gets flopped around and or spilled on it. And then just keep the commitment that as you go through that book of transformation and an exercise is suggested, you make a choice. Are you going to do the exercise or not? And you write it in your journal. And then if you start doing the exercise, you write in your journal and make notes about it. And when you follow through on that kind of a commitment, you get entirely different results than if you don't follow through. So that's what we did last night. And again, I have gratitude for anybody who shows up whenever they show up, who's trying to take responsibility for their own emotions and their own actions and their own life. because that's literally how we create our experience of life, by choosing to focus our energy differently or by choosing to learn something new. I just had somebody in my office for a first session, and he's been seeing another therapist for over 3 years, and he hasn't really made any progress on the things he wanted to make progress on. So I let him know in the first session, I'm not going to be one of those therapists where you just come in and say how your week was each week, and then I nod and grunt and then say, okay, time is up, see you next week. That's not how I do things. But if you're willing to learn some new tools, skills, tricks, whatever, and you're going to apply the energy to them, you're probably going to be able to make changes in your life that you want to make. So we began, as usual, by teaching a calming breathing technique and by introducing the 10 bottom line observations, at least the first 4 of them, and then the handout for Brad Yates on YouTube for EFT tapping. And so same goes for this body of tools that Michael and Jeannie make available. They're really powerful. They can be really effective. But in order for that to happen, somebody has to make the commitment to actually put in the work. They used to say, put the pen to the paper. But these days, you don't even have to have a pen and paper. You can just have your cell phone and use the app.
Dr. Tim?
So, yes.
I've been wondering about our group that Tim Mingham and I run, because it has gone from about 8 members down to, last time we met, there were 2. And everybody has reasons. One person moved away and got a job and can't be there anymore. Another one is renovating her house, and she needed the cloudy day that it happened to be yesterday to work on a window. And she's been missing for several weeks because she's renovating her house, and that's the ultimate purpose she has. Then there are two people in their 80s, one who, neither one of them is interested in doing the wake-up sheets. They want to do just what you just said happens. They check in, they tell about their weeks, they tell about something that's going on. One of them has some health issues. He talks a little bit about that, but he is also somebody who has his own practice, and he lives alone, and he doesn't feel the need for the tools. He doesn't spend time at all in upset. He spends time in the presence, capital P, and he's sort of our guru in a way. He's an enlightened kind of person. The other one comes and goes, oversleeps sometimes and shows up half an hour late. She wants to check in and report things and tell about things on her mind. But Tim and I have not pushed using a wake-up sheet, and you're making me wonder if we probably should. Basically, we end up talking about whatever's going on, and nobody really gives advice.
Right. And so what you're running up against is what a lot of groups run into.
Yeah.
If they lose their focus, they start to drift. As they drift, they might drift into a nice space, a nice calm bay with a beautiful scenery, but they might drift into dangerous territories, or they might drift out of any semblance of what they first began for. And so they've lost their rudder, so to speak. And then they eventually they dismantle, they disband.
Right. That's happening. One member is a Course in Miracles student and knows about the tools, but she doesn't feel she needs them. She feels as if she already knows the enlightened things that you need to know. So basically, you know what I mean?
I've met a few of those people.
Yeah. So, in the last two meetings, it's been that way, and we've ended 15 minutes early because people are sitting there with no more things to say. I always say, anybody want to do a wake-up sheet? What's going on? But there are no nibbles, and I'm thinking I don't have enough of the kind of whatever it is that you're doing in your group you're sticking to a program even if nobody shows up, which it's probably the best thing to do, is holding the space, waiting for the people who come and do the work. That's a good idea. I might just switch over and say, all right, the purpose of this group is, yeah, I haven't felt I had the one guy, the oldest one, the one who's in the presence all the time in a state of semi-bliss. I don't know if, I could push that on him, but
You don't have to push this on anybody.
yeah,
It's your group.
yeah,
You're not pushing anything on anybody. But when you hold the group and you're the one who's providing the impetus and creating the space, either physically or on the Zoom call, it's up to you. And it's okay if you don't want to go back to doing the worksheets. And it's okay if you're the one who does the worksheet every week. And it's okay if you never do a worksheet. It's going to be all right. But
mm-hmm.
it's also important to understand what I'm doing that might be contributing to a result that isn't as satisfying as it might be.
Right, right. That's very true. Well, I've often felt like doing a wake-up sheet on there, and that's what I might do. That's a good idea. Yeah, one person is away and will be back, and that sort of thing. But anyway, it's interesting because even the radio show, look at us, it's just the two of us as far as I can see. There may be people calling in ways that don't register on this Zoom. Is that
Well,
possible?
well, yeah, that's possible. And I'm not sure that that's any possible anymore on the Zoom, but what I do know is occasionally I get an email from somebody that I don't recognize, and they're thanking me for the show, and they live out
Oh,
in San Diego or Santa Barbara, or they live
oh
over
yeah,
in England, and I never know who's finding this show. And
yeah,
eventually, when I get emails like that, if I'm thinking clearly at the time, I ask them, "Where are you, and how do you listen to the show?"
yeah.
And the one person responded, "Well, there are four of us, and I'm in Santa Barbara, and somebody else is in British Columbia, and we get on the phone together and we listen to your show on the replay
Great.
because we
Hey,
work." And so, you know, that stuff is going on. I don't know how
yeah.
much,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that person that answered that email may be the only person who does that, or he might be one
Mm-hmm.
of dozens. I
Yeah.
don't have any fantasy that there's hundreds or thousands, but
Right.
that's not mine to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My goal in doing this wasn't to get 2 million followers.
Right.
My goal in doing the groups and the internet show is to make sure that I'm still focused on using the tools and that I'm sharing the best of what I've learned from all kinds of things, but also from this body of tools. And
Yeah.
if I do that, that's been a successful day or show or group meeting for me.
Good. I totally get that. Right. So, two things. Are you aware of what Michael's going through?
Only that yesterday there wasn't a live show, and Jeannie said he's got a healing crisis going.
Yeah. It's his lungs. He and I have been, he's not going to have the show again today either because he's still not well. He's got a fever and he's got lung problems that he thought were taken care of during having had COVID. And he has talked about that on the radio show, about how Jeannie and he both got past some persistent physical problem when they had COVID. It was like the ultimate healing crisis, or a great healing crisis that took care of that. And now he's saying, well, here I am, very uncomfortable. It, and then I get I haven't suggested it because it's none of my business, but I feel like saying, get yourself to a doctor and get on an antibiotic. None of my business. I'm afraid he may have pneumonia or something, but anyway, just to keep him in your thoughts. I
Will
don't make.
do.
And the other thing is, I've been thinking, of course, about the nature of addiction because my journals are so blatantly the chronicle of an addict. It's now that I'm up in the years around 2017, 1990 to 2000, this relationship addiction was in full dudgeon, and I was handling it responsibly, but without tools. But even though I have the tools, I'm noticing certain things like the insidiousness of the wish or design to keep the addiction going. And one person said something in my journals that I hadn't really registered, that an addict feels entitled. Maybe I talked about this yesterday. I know my sister, because she's in love with Kevin Costner, feels she's entitled to being in touch with him and knowing more about him than might be appropriate. She wants to be on the inside. Now, when I was in therapy with my psychiatrist years ago, a woman in her 60s, I've talked about her. I wanted to know things that weren't necessary for me to know in the office. I wanted to know her private life, what it was like, where she lived, how she felt about things. And then she went and published an autobiography. And of course, I bought it and read it and found out all the stuff I wanted to know. And I'm thinking, what am I finding out here? I'm finding out that she was a person. She did crazy things. She had feelings. She made mistakes. She was stupid. She had warts. And, why is it it's so hard to learn what's pretty obvious? It just amazes me that part of me will not learn it. I'm still just looking at it. All I'm doing is looking at it. So any comments on any part of that would be very helpful, especially since it's only you and me, and maybe I can grab the wisdom.
Well, the thing that's flooding into my mind right now is imagining you as a single digit child
Yeah.
in this really chaotic environment where you never really know when mom might blow up again, and here comes the writing crop. And, the essence of those situations where we don't have a whole lot of strength and agency and legal ability to create our own life. So we're dependent on the adults in our life. And of course, you would have a fantasy in that situation that you're going to be able to find somebody who will be consistent and loving and balanced and know how to put things right and know how to help you with your problems and be comforting and loving. It's just normal. And that's the best that I know to talk about with people is when this happens, when that addiction kicks in with you, that urgency kicks in, what's happening is your life and your perceptions in that moment are being run by the mindset of your younger self at whatever age you were when you downloaded whatever coping you thought you needed to download to survive an either tragic or abusive situation or just really intense. Doesn't even have to be, intentionally abusive, but just intense. So of course, you're going to look with the adoring eyes of a 5 or 6-year-old to whoever you land on and want to see as a potential resource or your savior. And you're not going to be able to see them warts and all, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I know this. I
Okay, then
know
then
this.
then you have to start working with it by
Mm-hmm.
actively taking a step back from getting into the observer position within your own mind and just soften and treat that younger self, despite all of its urgency, treat it with calm, treat it with firmness and gentleness, and explain to it, have a dialogue with it about its relative position in your life and your appreciation for it or her, to have the intelligence, to have the sensitivity, to be, craving something better. All of those things are really good traits that you possess as a person and you possessed when you were younger. And they are part of what's feeding this distortion in your perception of others. So it's really like re-educating a younger version of yourself, introducing that younger version of yourself to you all as all grown up and making the connection that there is no separation here, and that instead of attacking the younger self or its neediness like when you think about yourself as being needy, do you feel warm and nurturing towards yourself?
Right? No.
Okay, you got to
Mm-hmm.
flip that. You got to understand. It's like Krishnamurti once said in one of the talks I saw him give on a video. He said, we must learn to lovingly embrace our negative emotions the way we would a wounded child. So how about your next piece of work? It's not worksheets. It's not EFT tapping. It's not mind shifter. Your next piece of work is you watch for that pattern and that younger version of yourself that's yearning for something or creating a crush on somebody, and you embrace that younger part of you gently and lovingly.
You know, that makes all kinds of sense, but I have no feeling of connection with that person. I look at her like some kid
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. I imagine you do, and that's why it's a job. That's why it's a task. That's why it's a skill you have to develop. Remember, it wasn't too long ago. I was talking about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I had a very bright woman in my office, and she's in her mid 60s. And I asked her, so, what emotion goes with those tears? And she looked at me like I was from Mars. And eventually we had to say, okay, forget about trying to pinpoint the emotion. What physical sensation is most, up for you right now that you're most aware of? And again, she looked at me like I was from Mars.
Mm,
She's so dissociated
yeah.
from her physical sensations and therefore from any emotional process that she has some real fundamental shifts to start working on because she
Mm,
has actively disconnected, like at the neck, from all of the processing that goes on in her throat and chest and abdomen and legs and hips and back because it's not logical. And she's just trying to figure it out logically. So she has to start practicing doing exercises that will help her reconnect her awareness to her physical body sensations. There's that book, Waking the Tiger, that Peter Levine wrote years ago that was about that very thing, trying to get some exercises developed for people to step back into, to re-embody their physical body, to reawaken their awareness of their interoception, their visceral sensations, their emotions, etc. So I would imagine you're going to have to practice this. You're going to have to make the commitment to it and practice it. And one of the little tools or tricks we use for that with people is we say, listen, do you have anybody in your life who is a son or a daughter or a grandson or granddaughter or a niece or a nephew that you feel lovingly towards, that you can visualize at about that same age, and
mm,
then you simply copy and paste the dialogue that you would send to that younger niece or nephew, and you start using it towards your younger self.
That is a great idea. I was saying, how do I get there? There's a chasm, but that exercise reminded me of all the times I played with my dolls, and I was the loving mother toward the dolls. So I'm thinking maybe I can pretend I'm one of the dolls. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
go ahead, do that. But I've had people that have really turned this around because they've done things like they've listened to the way they speak to their kittens or their
yeah,
cats, and something clicked, and they said, "Oh, I can talk to my younger self that way." Syrupy, sweet, over the top, it's fine because you're talking to a little kid,
mm,
or you're talking to an infant the way we coo, or you're talking to a dog, right? And you're trying to use all of those inflections in your voice and tone to communicate gentleness and acceptance because you know they don't understand the words. Well, it's pretty much
mm,
going to be the same thing with your younger wounded parts. In the beginning, they don't want to hear any kind of lecture,
no.
and yet they're craving connection with you,
Who's
or
craving connection?
your younger wounded parts.
Oh, okay. Mm, mm,
Okay, so what does
yeah.
that grunt mean?
I can imagine doing it as a rote, mechanical, feelingless exercise, but I'd be willing to do it at that level.
Well, that's where you got to start then.
Yeah.
And you might, eventually, sooner or later, get some pictures of yourself at these younger ages and keep them available while you're doing this dialogue to remind you about how truly young and innocent you were. Right? I mean, like you do things today that are driven by the younger wounded part of you that's been activated from some kind of a trauma association. And you do things and then you beat yourself up mercilessly for having done that. Oh, I can't believe I was fawning. Oh, I can't believe I didn't know the answer to that. Oh, I can't believe I gave in to that person. Whatever it is.
Mm,
Or I can't believe I avoided that confrontation rather than standing up for myself. And then
mm,
and then you get angry at yourself.
mm,
And what we're encouraging you to do is notice those times and then interrupt it. And instead of piling on the more anger, soften and use the same kind of loving understanding that you would to one of your animals or one of your grandkids or one of your own offspring when they were children. And just consider that this is going to have to be a practice, a skill that you develop and then strengthen, not a one off.
mm-hmm. I can feel that it would take a lot of practice. Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, my mind went right back to that psychiatrist I had, and I learned about her life. And I remember telling you something she said to me. I admitted to her that I had walked with my sister-in-law on her street because I wanted to see her house, see where she lived. And she became very angry, or not angry, rigid, upset. She said, "You were stalking me. How could you do that?"
Do you remember what I said to you when you told me that?
Yes, you said that's bad therapy or
Well,
something.
then that's just her woundedness. That's all.
Yeah. Well, You know, one of my issues with her was my bisexuality. I confessed to her that I had a crush on a woman friend of mine, and she stiffened, a married woman. She said, "Here you have this husband at home, and now you're
Okay,
telling me
all
you're
right,
in
all right.
love."
So stop, breathe, soften here.
Okay.
That's not what I would consider useful.
No. Well, you
As
mean
as
telling
as
you is not useful?
no. What she did with you, what she said
No.
to you. I'm having a flashback here to one of the times that I took the neuro-emotional technique training,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I took it a lot of times over the years, but this one time we took it, there was somebody new there in the audience, and they were trying to explain from the fundamental level, and then somebody came up and said, "Yeah, I don't know exactly how this happened, but they were talking about it as a technique and a tool that anybody could use, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave an example of somebody who used it without any psychology training or any, gentle, loving understanding. And so here comes a person who's had trauma, excuse me, over an abortion she had in the past.
Mm.
And the chiropractor or therapist that goes to do NET with her asks her what she wants to work on, and she says an abortion, and this person rails at them for having an abortion
Uh-oh. Oh,
rather
right.
than assisting them with the trauma that they're asking for help with.
Right.
That's what I was flashing on when you were talking about this therapist berating you because you're having an affair with somebody who's married and you're married and what are you doing and you're stalking me, and that's the therapist's issues, not
It
yours.
totally is. And I didn't know that
No,
until I
you
read her book.
exactly. You couldn't know that at
Mm-hmm.
that age, which
Mm-hmm.
is why there's so much entanglement and enmeshment that happens in therapy, because therapists are just people.
Mm. Beware. Yeah. Well,
And most people are not aware that therapists are just people.
well, in her biography, she started out having affairs with women, and she married and fell in love with a woman during her marriage, and then at the end of her life, she fell in love with a woman. And I thought, holy mackerel, why didn't you tell me that? I would have felt a lot better. But she evidently hadn't come to terms with it, although it sounds as if she was fine with it in her book. Anyway, she's 103 years old, Dr. Tim, and I've been having fantasies of calling her up. Well, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that would do anything except feed your addiction.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work you can do on it, right? So the part of you that is fantasizing about calling her up is a younger, I'm not going to say that for true, but you might get some mileage out of pretending that that part of you that's got that urge is a younger, wounded part of you that needs comforting from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can comfort that part directly rather than going back to your drug of choice.
You know, I feel as if I'm in that healthy mode a lot of the time. You know, when Elizabeth Gilbert talked about what she was doing, I thought, wow, she's like all four lanes are in this, where I keep
What do you mean
feeling
all four lanes?
all of herself is mixed up in this addiction thing where I feel as if three of my lanes are healthy lanes and there's this sick lane going on beside it. Maybe I'm fooling myself and justifying or ex- trying to
Well,
hide.
well, let me just ask you to change the label from
Yeah,
sick
yeah.
or, needy or broken or damaged. Change it to this younger, adaptive
Mm,
part of me, this younger, creative, adaptive part of me
mm.
that came into activity to meet a need I had. Now you change the entire tone. This reminds me of the book The Mirror Theory, and I've mentioned this before. The student's name is Betsy and the teacher's name is Charlie. And at one point Betsy says to Charlie, well, Charlie, what am I supposed to do about all my garbage history?
Mm.
And the teacher, Charlie, says, well, to begin with, how about we give it a name with some reverence? Like, why don't we start calling it the love of God in search of self?
Oh, God, yeah.
So instead of talking about this sick part of you, and there's no sick part of you, there's just you. And
Mm.
you with choice, and you with trauma energy, and you with false beliefs that you've downloaded, and you with the generational patterns to work through. But it's just you.
Mm.
You're okay. You are a blessing in this world to everybody that knows you. There's no sick you in there. So the invitation in this work is to catch those labels and judgments against ourselves. Of course, in lesson 3 in the way of mastery, they would call us to cancel every judgment about everyone and everything. But to begin with, in this, catch every negative judgment about yourself and just chuckle at it and see it as false and see it as coming from a much younger, much less well-informed, much less capable part of you.
Mm. That's
And
good.
and understand that every time it gets activated into activity, it means something about the world, the life situation you're in that moment is being interpreted by you as similar to a life-threatening situation from the past,
Yeah, that's
or
true.
or one that you labeled as life-threatening. It may not have been, but
Yeah, right. Mm.
and then you substitute the gentleness in place of the upset and judgment.
Well, those are a couple of good practices going on.
And I'll reiterate what I said earlier because I know that in terms of this work, for some people, it would be absolute blasphemy. But I'll reiterate what I said. I would suggest that you not do any worksheets and you not do any journaling and you not do the EFT tapping for a while. You do this.
Mm.
You begin and end your day thinking about and reviewing the harsh thoughts about yourself. And you actively work to catch those younger, wounded, scared, sad, hurt parts of you and comfort them as only you can.
Yeah, I understand that. Nobody else could, right? Well, Dr. Tim, I noticed we have Sally with us, and I'm functioning as the co-host at this point. Since there's only one other person, I wonder if she would like to check in. Do you approve of
Yeah,
my
that's
asking
funny.
that?
Oh,
Uh,
come on. A
s-
co-host doesn't ask for approval.
Hello,
oh,
Sally.
hello. Funny. I unmuted to make a comment just before you said that,
Oh,
and
good.
so I wanted you to know that I'm going to be doing this work with you
Oh, good.
because I just went to my 50th high school reunion, and
Mm-hmm.
I realized that there were all these younger me's that had been seriously, would you say, traumatized and wounded, that I didn't even remember. And so we can only heal what we're aware of. And so that reunion experience gave me an opportunity to realize how much I need to do exactly this self-compassion piece that you'll be doing also. I wrote as best I could. I wrote everything that Tim recommended for us.
Mm.
And I just think that that's a piece that I didn't realize needed more work. And
Mm.
so, or more play, or however I want to make that,
Right.
yeah, more time and attention and love. So I want to thank you for being such a great co-host, and just I check in when I can, and sometimes I have to check in and check out. But when I'm here, I'm fully, focused on your process and breathing with you. So I'm breathing with me. I'm breathing with Tim.
Mm,
So in great gratitude for this time together. And I'm thinking about going to this intensive with Michael Rice and Jeannie Rice and Urate and whoever else shows up. And I realized last night I was carrying this question mark into bed with me as I was deciding whether that was the right thing to do for me. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could do it as long as I could do the radio show every day at noon, because then I know I'll have a lot of material to bring. So
yeah,
hopefully we're still doing the radio show in November, because if I do go, I feel like I'm going to need a lifeline.
right. I hope we're doing it. I mean, Michael has been sick, and so keep him in your prayers. He's got lung issues. That's
Mm.
his Achilles heel is his lungs, and
Oh.
he missed the show yesterday because he calls it a healing crisis, and I hope
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly right. It's a great
Mm-hmm.
way to put it. But he's uncomfortable and he has a fever, and Jeannie's
Okay.
tending to him, and they're not babysitting the babies right
Good.
now, so that's
Good.
good. Yeah.
Good. I did not know that, and thank you for sharing. Uh, in confidence, I will just say that the best thing that I can do for both of them is breathe with them and hold space and do
Right.
what they've taught all of us so well.
Well, his lung thing, he's talked extensively on the show, and he said he's
Mm-hmm.
dismayed because he thought COVID had really healed him out of that, but
Yeah.
he's having a recurrence.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't imagine he wouldn't want us to know.
Yeah, I will be holding that in confidence. And,
Okay.
between you and me, we'll be breathing and sending love, and the three of us can, be part of his healing journey wherever that takes him.
Mm.
Well, as you do that, you might also want to send some extra loving, healing energy towards Celinda out in Oregon,
Oh,
Okay.
who took a fall last night and
oh
Mm.
no.
and
Very,
has
very good.
and has some injuries and
Yes.
a boot on the ankle and disrupted teeth and
Oh
Mm.
no.
all kinds of. She described it as a header, taking a header in a parking lot.
Oh
So
no.
she was
Mm.
clearly pretty much still in shock when she called the group last night, but wanted to let people know so they could send blessings and
Oh,
prayers and
thanks.
whatnot.
Yeah, she came on like the very last 15 minutes because she really wanted to ask us to, hold her, and she wanted to share the events of what happened, but I agree that there was shock energy and that she will be feeling it today. So today and
Oh.
tomorrow will be rough, probably.
Mm. Too bad. Yeah, falling is a big deal
Mm-hmm.
when you get older and your bones aren't so strong, and then your balance is off too. So,
Mm-hmm. I
well,
made sure my mom does some physical therapy, and I've got a very good physical therapist. And while she was working with him, there was one appointment where he set down a big foamy mat, a big,
hmm
huge, like gym mat. And he said, well, I'd like you to get on the mat. And my mom kind of looked at him and he said, yep, I want you to get on the mat and then show me how you get up. And she
right.
looked at him like he was purple and from Mars. And he said, yep, I'm here for you if you need me. And so my mom said, we turn the other way. It's not pretty the way I get down anymore or get up. So he said, okay, but I'm going to keep one eye on you. And so he turned slightly and she proceeded to get on the mat. And she thought, okay, I always have to think about this. He goes, that's exactly right. Think about it. And, but he taught her how to get up because at 92, it's really empowering to know you can get up.
Yeah.
And he said it's just like when you were 2 and a toddler. Every child figures out their best way to get back up. And I thought, oh, that was really, really a good move. I wouldn't have thought of that. So I'm grateful she has good care.
Are you living near her, Sally?
I do. I live right with her.
Oh,
And
okay.
I can be here if she needs me anytime and also give her space when she needs space. So it's been a beautiful experience.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling Tim last night, I have no idea what's in store for me after she lets go of the physical form. Like, I'm going to have a whole lot of decisions to make. And at the moment, I have absolutely no clue as I look to the mystery of the future. So I figure I'll be informed on a need-to-know basis. And right now, I don't need to know. I don't like that. I always want to know the blueprint.
Right.
I want the map.
Right. That's true.
Spoken like a true human being.
Oh, I hear you.
I don't like this mystery business.
I know.
Right.
Yep, I want the comfort, I want the safety, I want the security, and I want it now.
And the
If you want,
certainty.
if you want to drop a little patience in there, go ahead. But
Right.
but the big thing is, I want comfort and certainty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want predictability.
Mm-hmm. Breathing with you on that.
Dr. Tim,
Yes.
toward the end of the Way of Mastery, Shanti Christo is mentioned, and it sounds almost as if it's turning into a cult toward the end of the book. Do you know what I'm
What is
saying?
going? Have you ever had any experiences with cults?
Yes.
There are your worksheets.
All right.
You're only seeing that because of your view, your filters,
Okay.
your
All
history.
right. Mm-hmm.
Shanti Christo simply means birthing Christ. It's the name of the foundation because it means birthing Christ, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to help everybody tap into their own internal access to the Christ mind.
Okay.
And he says over and over again, but the point of this book and all of these books, like, this is the third or fourth in the series. The point of all of them is this, to get the momentum going so that we can have 10 million awakened Christ-minded people on the planet at the same time, because it's never been done before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Corrected.
And I'm pretty sure that you're not going to find a cult if you go searching. You're not going to find somebody who's going to say, "Here, come and move to live at our land," or start sending me half of your income from whatever you're doing, and then you're going to be part of our group, and then you're going to make pilgrimages to our sacred land. And that's the cult stuff that you're not going to find in the Way of Mastery.
Okay, good.
Now, that was a nice breath, and you said, okay, good, a couple times. Do you need to talk about what you think you read that made you think of cult behavior in the last part of the book?
only what some Christian sect also say is Jesus is the only way. It's built right into the creed. It's something I don't buy into, and I don't even say the creed when I'm at church, really. I stand respectfully by while it's like saying the Girl Scouts honor, as far as I'm concerned. It's an allegiance to a belief system or a group that's going to be setting other people outside and us in. If it looks like that, I want no part of it. So it's the same thing. It just started resonating that. You undid it pretty fast, Tim. It's okay.
Okay. Well, I understand that there are some of those statements that are made in this book.
Yeah.
To my eye and ear, they are many fewer than the statements that are made in a variety of other books, including the Course in Miracles, where, according to what Dr. Michael Rice would say, it's not very good regulatory speech,
Mm-hmm.
or it's actually misstating things. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you understand that? Well, if the channeling, if this energy communication pattern stuff that we call channeling, if there's any truth to it, well, we know it's coming through me, right? I
Yeah.
read The Way of Mastery, and then I read it on the internet show with commentary. You get it's got the flavor of my life in it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else reads it, they're going to highlight different things. They're going to have a whole different flavor. They might use some of the statements in there to drive home the same kind of, isolationist Christian stuff that other people do, because it's coming through their filters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
JM had been to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a guy,
Yeah.
just like everybody else. John Mark Hammer had all kinds of issues, all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of relationship issues, all kinds of money issues, all kinds of anger and fear issues, just like every other person. And
Right.
so some of those might have filtered through some of the words that you're hearing, especially there at the end of the book.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's the truth of the book, or that, you know, everything that he says in there is absolute truth. We're not
Mm-hmm.
putting this forward as truth. We're putting this forward as something to be experimented with and observed and practiced and see
Mm-hmm.
how it works for you.
Yeah.
Just like the exercise that I recommended. And I'm not telling you, if you don't do this, you're not going to fix this. Or I'm just saying, hey, look, you've done a lot of worksheets, you've done a lot of journaling, you've done a lot of EFT tapping stuff, whatever it is that you do, breath work and meditation on your walks. If you're still stuck on this, why not try something else for a while?
Right.
And if you try it, maybe it works for you. Maybe it points you in a nice direction. Maybe it brings up some more upset. And then there's more that you can unload of, dismantle with your worksheets and whatever other tools you really like.
Do you ever get sick and tired of all this, Tim?
You mean life?
Having to help people with all their junk.
I don't have to. I don't have to come back here Monday. I don't have to do a support group. I,
You like to.
I, I'm not. I'm just pointing out to you. No, I don't get sick of this because my view of it is that it's rewarding. My view of it is that I benefit because when I teach it to somebody else, I learn it at a deeper level.
Mm,
My view of it is the more that I make myself available to do this, the more the tools come top of mind in my life when I choose an interpretation for something that's negative. So the answer is no, I don't get sick of it. Have I gotten tired at different times and thought, oh boy, I really don't want to do a group tonight, or I really wish I didn't have to do the internet show today? Yeah, but it's not because I'm sick of it.
okay,
It's
good.
not because of whatever that filter is in your head that's labeling you as bad or wrong or sick or pathological. I I've learned that's not a useful set of conclusions to hold. So I question them when they come up.
Well,
Actively.
thank you for this hour.
You're very welcome and deserving. I appreciate, as always, your participation. And I'll just say for the recording that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Have a wonderful